Okay, hello and welcome everyone. Welcome to JFD Traders Tea Time with me, Darius and Anucauskas. Today's the 1st of November 2019, so welcome everyone. Welcome to this Friday's afternoon session where we're going to have a quick look at the markets, a few of the charts that we looked at this morning. As always, yep, but before we do that, let's quickly have a read through our risk disclaimers. So, the content we produce does not constitute investment advice or investment recommendation, should not be considered as such, and does not in any way constitute an invitation to acquire any financial instrument or product. As always, a few seconds for you to read the rest, and we can continue. Also, just before we jump into the charts, quick mentioning of our JFD YouTube channel here, to which you can always subscribe to in order not to miss any of our upcoming videos, and of course our JFD Bank website and specifically our JFD research page, which we update on a daily basis. And I believe you can find a lot of useful stuff here for yourselves, guys. So yep, feel free to visit us, and yep, like I said, check out the analysis. Right now, let's jump into the charts. Now, the first one I want to touch on here is the FTSE100. Now, I talked about this one yesterday, and basically, I've mentioned a few ideas here. If you haven't watched the video this morning, I talked about the FTSE this morning as well. Now, for now, as long as it kind of remains above this upside support line taken from the low of the 3rd of October, we will remain somewhat positive. But again, as you can see, lately the index has been struggling with overcoming the 7,350 territory. So in a way, all this area right here, in between the upside line and this barrier, the 7,350, all this area is going to be somewhat of a neutral one for us. So we're just going to continue. We're going to just sit back, relax, and just continue observing the price action. So in a way, if we get a nice push above this level, above the 7,350, then yep, we will aim for higher levels like the 7,440, 41 zone, or roughly around here, which is the high of the 30th of September, and then we'll take it from there. For now, we're going to keep it short and simple. We're not going to drive this one drastically to the upside. We want to see what it could do around here near the 7,440 zone. But of course, we'll examine that level if we get a push above the 7,350 territory. In terms of the downside, if it suddenly reverses and drops below this upside line and drops below the 7,250 zone, then well, in a way, it increases the chances of a further slide lower. Again, we're not going to drag this one too much to the downside. We're just going to we're going to see what it wants to do near the 7,140 zone. So keep your eyes on that one. Quick mentioning of Dow Jones Industrial Average here. So managed to open nicely with a push higher. So as you are aware, the news came out, so the non-farm payrolls from the US came out, so they came out better than expected. The unemployment, of course, stayed the same. The average hourly earnings only kind of dropped by 1/10, and sorry, dropped from the forecast. From the previous number, it dropped by 0.2%. But still, as you can see, the equity market is seeing this as a nice positive thing. Don't get me wrong. After we got the employment figures from the U.S., we did get the ISM manufacturing number, which came out worse than expected. So in a way, for now, we are getting a nice positive reaction here on in the equity markets. But let's see if the ISM figure will start weighing in later on. But for now, everything's looking quite positive. It's breaking this downside resistance line. I talked about this one previously. It's breaking this downside resistance line taken from the high of the 16th of July. And is getting closer to its highs, the September highs, near the 27,307 zone. So if we get a nice pop above this, then in a way, this is opening the path towards That's the Dow's all-time high, and Dow's all-time high is near the 27,399 zone. So we'll keep an eye on that one. If it would be quite interesting to see if the new high would be set this week, or by the end of this week, and by the end of this week I mean today. So keep your eyes on this one, guys. And there are a bunch of barriers that this index would need to overcome first before kind of, let's say, trying at least to hit a new all-time high for this one. Unlike the Nasdaq and this S&P, who have the Nasdaq 100 and the S&P 500, yeah, those have both already managed to create new all-time highs, but it's now could be now the turn of Dow, but again, it would need to overcome first. So first, it would need to overcome this 27,307 zone, and then the previous all-time high at 27,399. So at this point, everything's looking quite positive. We are pushing above the downside resistance line, but in case this suddenly, let's say, travels back down and stays below this downside resistance line, now we would be getting ourselves a nice false breakout here, and in a way, this could lead to a bit of declines. The only thing is that for us to get a little bit more comfortable with some declines, a drop below the lows of yesterday would be needed. So a drop below the 26,920 zone could in a way open the path towards the 26,715, and then we'll take it from there, because this could in a way continue sliding, maybe testing the 200 EMA here on the 4-hour chart, and it will be quite interesting to see if we can push further down. But again, that's a bit too much trying to predict the future. For now, let's see how this is going to play out near this downside resistance line. If it stays above this, then, and especially if it closes a daily candle above this, then next week we could still have that opportunity to maybe go and test the previous all-time high and then maybe create a new one. So who knows? But again, all eyes are on this downside resistance line today, guys. WTI oil, a very quick mentioning of this one. I've talked about WTI oil this morning as well. Now with this one, basically it's rebounding nicely from the lower side of the rising channel. So this is what I talked about this morning. We were still hanging around here somewhere, but what I was saying, that if it starts dropping below the lower bound of the rising channel, then this is where it could become a little bit more difficult for the commodity and for the buyers, and we could see this one maybe drifting further down here. But as you can see, WTI oil is getting a boost. It's pushing above all of its EMAs here right now, the 21, the 50, the 100, and the 200. And in a way, there could be a good chance for this one to drift further north. That said, for us to get a little bit more excited with the upside, ideally we would like to see a push. Now, let me just quickly put this one on the chart. A push above the 55.87 zone right here. In a way, actually, we could start looking at this little high here near the 55.50 zone. Let me just quickly put this one on the chart as well. So we'll start looking at higher levels here at around 55.55 zone. A nice good pop above this could lead, of course, to test this 55.87 area. But if that fails to hold, then yes, we could be aiming for much higher levels. So that's why, guys, for now, keep your eyes on this channel, on this rising channel. Let's see if it can continue driving further north. But we'll probably get a little bit more comfortable with higher levels if we see a push above the 55.55 zone. So keep your eyes on down. In case this suddenly reverses to the downside, for us to examine, let's say, lower levels, much lower levels, well, a drop below this area right here, the 53.70 zone, would be needed, and only then we will aim for lower areas. So keep your eyes on this one. Jumping into a few pairs now very quickly. AUDCAD now. Quite an interesting move here happening. So in a way, let me just quickly clear this chart a little bit, guys, because too many lines here. So let me just get rid of all this nonsense and we can start fresh. So basically looking at this picture here, of course, it continues to climb higher. It had a nice, beautiful boost here on Wednesday, and you can see that it traveled all the way here towards the towards this level right here, towards the 0.9120 territory, found good resistance around here, and then reversed back to the downside for a bit of correction. Found some support near this level right here, near the 0.9045, and now it's pushing back to the upside. Now, of course, everything is looking quite positive. We could be aiming for this little high right here near the 0.90. Sorry, zero. Let me just quickly put this one here, right there. So 0.9144 zone. So this is basically the highest point of September, and of course, this is the level that we're going to be targeting, but we would need to see the pair pushing above the 0.9120 territory first before, let's say, getting excited about further moves higher. Now, again, something that probably sometimes happens, and as you can see right now, the pair is finding some resistance near its R1, which is around the 0.9110 territory. If it continues to hold here, and let's say decides not to travel straight away to the upside and correct back down, now this is what I wanted to show you quickly. This is what we could be getting ourselves into here, and we could be having somewhat of a potential maybe triangle formation here happening. So again, this is probably me getting ahead of myself a little bit here, but just wanted to keep this on the radar, and in case, let's say, this decides not to travel further north here and decides not to break the 0.9120 territory straight away, and if it decides to correct back down, and we could be getting ourselves something like this. Maybe it would be a symmetrical triangle, maybe it would be a descending triangle. For now, it's unclear, it's just an idea, so that's why we're going to get rid of it. But given the fact that it kind of stalled around here, it failed to move towards the this week's highs. So that's why this idea kind of is on the table still. So we could see maybe this one correcting back down, and then yep, as I showed you earlier, it could be forming a triangle. But again, that's a bit too early. First, for now, keep your eyes on this barrier, the 0.9120. A nice good pop above this then could open the path towards the highest point of September. We'll keep. I do understand it's very kind of short distance here, but it's a very important area of resistance. We'll see how the pair is going to perform around there, if it travels there, of course, and then we'll take it from there. We'll see. Maybe it'll decide to correct back down, but who knows for now. Like I said, we'll reevaluate this one then. If it starts dropping lower and we see a drop below the 0.9045, only then we will get comfortable with slightly lower areas, and only then we will target the downside here. So that's why, guys, for now, keep your eyes on this one. It's quite an interesting pair, but again, in terms of the downside, only after the break of this level here, the 0.9045, that we will start examining lower areas. For now, everything's looking more bullish than bearish, but even with the upside, we need to see a push above the 0.9120. USDCAD. Now, initially, this is probably the best reflection of how the data was coming out, and so initially we got our nice NFP numbers. It popped to the upside. It traveled above its 200 EMA. This is what I was talking about this morning, because for us to get comfortable with higher levels, we needed to see a nice good push initially above the 1.3185 zone. We got that, but the candle, even the 4-hour candle, never stayed above it and quickly retraced back down. And you can see that this is where the ISM numbers are kicking in. We are seeing a bit of a slide, a bit of a decline here, but so far it still remains above the above today's pivot, which is roughly around the 1.3160. And also what's important is that the pair is kind of forming somewhat of a range here, or in other words, maybe a bit of a flag here. So we do have a nice pole here, and now it's kind of ranging, and this way, yep, forming a nice flag. Of course, this formation tends to be more of a bullish one, but again, I probably looking at this current kind of price action, ideally now we would at least like to see a 4-hour candle close above the 200 EMA and above the 1.3185 zone, and the 200 EMA is on the 4-hour chart here. So that's why, guys, for now, keep your eyes on this one. It's still quite interesting, but we need to be very careful here. In terms of the downside, in a way, we'll start considering lower areas if we see a drop below the 1.3145 here. I also, ideally, would like to see a close at least of a 4-hour candle below this level, and then we could consider further moves lower. But still, we'll be very careful around these EMAs here. In a way, the pair could reverse back to the upside. We've seen that happening, especially with USDCAD several times. So, but for those who are more on the cautious side, you could still in a way wait for a drop below the 1.31 zone in order to aim for lower areas. Another interesting pair I wanted to quickly show you, and that's US dollar against the Russian ruble. I mean, probably you don't trade this one very often, but just wanted to quickly run this interesting kind of formation here. And let me just get rid of some of these lines. They're probably no longer valid because we rather draw a new one. Basically, what I want to show you here is that, of course, this pair is on a decline. You can see that it's trading below this tentative kind of, or actually no longer a tentative, but this downside resistance line, short-term downside resistance line taken from the high of October 2nd. And we're ignoring this little spike here. Well, little, of course, little spike here. We're ignoring that one, and we're capturing these highs, these tops. And you can see that now, after hitting the downside line again for the third time, the downside line acted as a fantastic area of resistance, and now the rate is falling. The only thing is that the big question here: will this actually break the key area of support around here near the 63.50 territory? If it breaks, but let's say still is not able to close a daily candle below this, then, well, this could be a nice false breakout, and we may see the pair kind of reversing back to the upside here, and maybe going for another test of this downside line. But if this area here closes, or should I say the rate closes below this territory, the 63.50 zone, well, I mean, this could be opening the path towards much lower areas, and the first strong area of support to consider could be around the 63.0607 zone, somewhere around here. Basically, that's marked by the low of the 31st of July of this year, of course, and yep, then we'll take it from there. But for now, all eyes are on this key area of support. Jumping into GBPCHF, quick mentioning of this one. I talked about GBPCHF this morning, and we continue to observe this nice squeeze that we're getting here. And basically, the more it gets squeezed, the bigger the pop should be. Of course, for now we're still neutral. It did move higher. It tested the downside, the upper side of this veg or triangle or whatever you want to call it. So basically, this downside resistance line, it tested it, and now it kind of came back down again. So again, it doesn't want to move out of it yet. It's waiting for some sort of a trigger, good trigger that could bring this one out of it. For now, we're just going to continue observing it. You guys continue observing it as well, because this could present us a nice opportunity here. So, but we need that exit first, either through the 1.2828 zone here through the upside, or in the downside, the 1.2740 zone. So keep your eyes on those. And the last pair for this session is going to be euro dollar. Now with this one, it's quite interesting. It's acting as it's playing out as a nice roller coaster. Again, we had a nice test of this downside resistance line. This is what I talked about this morning, basically, where I was saying that we may see a push higher. But if it travels lower and drops below the downside resistance line, then yep, we will consider further declines. We did test the downside line from above, and but failed to move below it. So in a way, again, this area acted as a fantastic as a fantastic trampoline here for euro dollar. The only thing is that for us to get a little bit more excited about the upside, well, we're not going to do anything until we see a push above the highest point of October here near the 1.1183 zone. So only then that we will target higher areas, and by higher areas, we do have a strong area of resistance here near the 1.1250. And that's basically the high of the highest point of August. But until then, until we get the break here above the 1.1183, we're not doing anything. We're just observing this one. And I'll repeat myself, for the downside, this is what we need. We need to see a drop below the this downside resistance line again, because as you can see, it kind of continues to act as a nice area of support now. So yep, for now, guys, keep your eyes on this one. It's quite interesting. The formation is quite interesting. I would say the pair is ranging right now. So let me just get rid of some of these lines here and probably mark this area right here. Nope, not this one. There we go. So right there. So yep, keep an eye on this one, guys. It's quite interesting. You can see that this is kind of this is the little range where the euro dollar is currently stuck in. But let's wait for that exit. If it doesn't happen today, well, there could be something interesting for next week. But to be honest, my personal opinion, I would like to keep it here. I would like it to stay here. Something for next week, basically. That would be a fantastic probably trade here. But again, let's wait and see which direction, which barrier it will decide to break. If it breaks above the 1.1183, that's wonderful. That's a new that's a higher high here for the bulls. More buyers could be joining in. But if it starts dropping back below this downside resistance line, then well, I mean, we could consider a possible move towards the 200 EMA or the 1.1060 territory. So keep your eyes on that one. Okay, guys, I really hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for sticking around and watching it till the end. I hope you found it useful, as I said. Yep. So if you want to join me on Monday, as always, at my Traders Espresso, that's 7 o'clock GMT time. But for now, I hope you have a beautiful evening. I hope you have a beautiful weekend, guys. And I'll see you on Monday at my Traders Espresso at 7 o'clock GMT time. Thank you very much, and bye-bye.